Good evening. It's July. It's hard to believe that we are in the 7th month of this year, but it's good news tonight, and we're delighted all to be here. This is First Thursdays at the Marin County Law Library, and we are delighted tonight to be welcoming the Marin Center for Independent Living. I suspect all of you have some familiarity with this marvelous organization. It's been around since 1979. The work that it performs every day touches members of our community and organizations that we get to hear about tonight. If you take anything away from this tonight, keep in mind that you are likely to meet a person that will benefit from this service. We're pleased to announce that tonight's guests from this center, Julia Hale and Eli Gelardin. And without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to them and for you to have an opportunity to learn about the great work this organization does.
Denise, thank you so much. Absolutely an honor to be here. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, just Marin Center for Independent Living so much appreciates the work of the Law Library, and we do a lot of collaborations and referrals, and just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all tonight about our organization and our program. So maybe we'll just do some brief introductions first, and then we'll go to a fantastic PowerPoint that Julia has queued up for us. So just very briefly, again, Eli Gelardin, Marin Center for Independent Living. I've been in my role as Executive Director, CEO, whatever you want to call me, since 2008, and just incredibly honored and proud of our organization and what we'll be covering today. And I'll pass it to my dynamic colleague.
I'm Julia Hales. I have been with Marin Center for Independent Living for going on 5 years. And I'll be talking about my role with Marin's Aging and Disability Resource Connection and sort of how our agency has sort of expanded our reach and services. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So as we mentioned, we're Eli and Julia. And so Eli, if you could get us started a bit.
Absolutely. So, we're going to be covering, well, more than 2 things tonight, but 2 themes. One is an overview of the Marin Center for Independent Living and our organization, our history, our core services, and who we serve, as well as how folks can volunteer and get involved in our work. And then we're also going to cover the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, which is an emerging partnership that Julia leads and will tell you more about between Marin Center for Independent Living and Marin County Aging and Adult Services, as well as other key partners and CBOs in the community. So starting with a little bit about Marin Center for Independent Living, or Marin CIL, as we call it at home. So our center has been around quite some time, 42 years and counting, since 1979. Our mission, our values really center on empowering the community of people with disabilities to live independently in the community. And we provide services, advocacy, and community development to make that happen. In terms of the services that we provide, and actually, before I even go into that, I want to tell a little story about independent living. As we've seen in the pandemic, the greatest and most impacted community has been individuals living in congregate living facilities. They have been at greater risk to infection and obviously death, and particularly those residents who have limited resources, economically disadvantaged, underserved, our BIPOC residents of congregate living facilities throughout the country and frankly throughout the world. The centering, the focus that independent living centers began with, and this is going back to the 60s and 70s when the disability rights and independent living movement started, was around advocacy, access, and inclusion. And it was recognizing that people with all types of disabilities needed services and supports, needed laws to change, needed access in order to fully participate and get out of those institutions, get out of those congregate living facility settings, and be members of the community. So Ed Roberts, the founder of independent living, back in the 60s and 70s, and some of you might have seen the film Crip Camp and been involved in or participated in some of those civil rights actions back then. You know, he was the first significantly disabled student to attend Cal Berkeley. He had to live in the student hospital because there was not an accessible dormitory for Ed. When he graduated, and he had to fight his way to get into Cal because they did not want him in at that time. When he graduated and you know, was ready to move on to the next phase of his life, he was met with the immediate barrier of accessing the community, jobs, transportation, housing. And because he saw those early barriers, he recognized that there was a need for a community-based organization, the Center for Independent Living, to advocate and create a world that was accessible to all people of all disabilities, of all backgrounds. So those early values that started with one center in Berkeley in the late 60s, early 70s, turned into a movement that proliferated across the country and across the world. So Marin Center for Independent Living is one of those early founded independent living centers. There are over 28 in the state, over 300 in our country, over 600 internationally. But going back to, you know, the pandemic and the role that our center plays, it really is about breaking down barriers, providing services, providing, you know, coordination to get folks to the least restrictive environment possible and keep them there with a high quality of life, with access and, you know, with joy. So we'll go to the next slide. So the core of our services and advocacy really centers around 3 tiers. We do person-centered planning and care coordination, which is really connecting folks with the public benefits, the IL skills, the caregiving support they need to maintain their independence. As I mentioned earlier, advocacy, and as Ed said, the first core services of independent living in Berkeley 50 years ago were advocacy, advocacy, and advocacy. So recognizing that systems need to change, laws need to change, and community organizing needs to continue in order to create access and equity for all people and all people with disabilities. And the third tier is really what we refer to as housing preservation, recognizing that housing development and creating more housing, especially in this day and age, especially in California and in Marin County, is very difficult. But what we can do at our center is provide services and coordination in order to support people in maintaining their housing. That includes assistive technology, home modifications, durable medical equipment, as well as facilitating landlord and tenant issues, reasonable accommodations, and other types of housing support and financial support to maintain housing. I want to talk about some, and I'm wondering, maybe Julia, I can switch and do some web sharing on some links here for emerging work that we're doing. So let me do a screen share here. And I'll talk about dignity at home first. So in addition to those three, tiers and kind of core services that we offer at Marin CIL, we have several emerging programs that we want to make sure the community knows about. The first is Dignity at Home, which is our fall prevention and home safety program. In partnership with Marin Area Agency on Aging, IAAA, and Home Safety Services, we offer a home modification package that includes home safety assessments, grab bar installations, raised toilet seats, handheld showers, fall prevention checklist, as well as a complimentary pill box. And really recognizing that where we are in our community right now, it's essential that our older adults who are aging into disability have accessible living spaces, and particularly showers and bathrooms, so that they don't have a slip and fall and end up in the ER or in a medical facility. All of this information is online on our website, marincil.org/dignity at home. And we encourage folks to apply directly online. They can look at a flyer, and essentially these packages are funded through our grant with Area on Aging. It's a great resource. The next program that I wanted to talk about was Digital Access for All. And this is actually almost a soft unveiling here at the Law Library. So in partnership with our friends at Integrated Community Services, which is an awesome CBO to check out, we are launching this month a program around bridging the digital divide for people with disabilities, caregivers, family members, and service providers. As we've seen through the course of COVID, there's been a significant gap between people who have internet access and those that don't. And it essentially is access to services, access to critical life-saving resources, food, transportation, and for the disability community, especially during this time of sheltering in place, it's essential that people with disabilities and their family and caregivers have internet access in order to access the services and supports they need. So through grant funding with the May and Stanley Smith Trust, we will be providing a combination of infrastructure, Chromebooks to qualified individuals, as well as digital literacy training. So over the course of this year, we'll be giving out 150 Chromebooks. We aim to support 50 individuals. They could be family members and service providers as well in digital literacy training, and essentially support the broader digital infrastructure investment that's happening in Marin County right now during the pandemic, and coordinate with Digital Marin, which has been a great resource, and in kind of centering internet access for all of our underserved and underrepresented communities. The next program initiative that I just want to briefly cover is Quick Match. So one of the core and really one of our largest programs at Marin CIL is our personal care registry. And we've developed an innovative tool Actually, this goes back 10 years ago, but man, is it helpful during COVID. Connecting consumers and family members with carefully screened, highly skilled caregivers on our registry, and having an online portal so that folks can actually find caregivers virtually, interview them, check references, all through their internet login and password. So this is a program we've run for many years, but particularly during COVID, and Julia will speak to it more in her presentation, particularly with the emerging needs of having caregivers support our community members, and in some cases, our facilities. It's been absolutely essential. The last program, and bear with me while I pull it up here. There we go. That I want to cover is actually just about to launch, Powered and Prepared, which offers free emergency planning and resources for people with disabilities. What we've learned over the course of the last 5-6 years as climate change has increased fire and smoke, and frankly, the state's battling of wildfires has just increased exponentially. The individuals and families impacted most during wildfire season are people with access and functional needs. And that includes people with disabilities, older adults, people with limited English proficiency, and frankly, our underserved community members. So in partnership with PG&E and the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, 2 years ago, Marin CIL launched our PSPS disaster response program, providing emergency planning and support, as well as battery support and disaster kits for individuals who rely on medical power for assistive technology like wheelchairs, powered wheelchairs, ventilators, CPAP machines, oxygen concentrators, as well as actual funding during emergencies to evacuate or pre-evacuate community members who might need to relocate because of proximity to a wildfire or just terrible smoke infiltration. This is a program that we are coordinating in partnership with some great community-based organizations that you've heard about. And it is one of our most critical offerings over the last 2 years. And I'm going to hand it over to Julia in a minute, but I also just want to say, in terms of ways that the community can get involved and volunteer with our work, getting the word out about all of these programs, but particularly our work around disaster preparedness and supporting friends, neighbors, community members with access and functional needs is absolutely critical. We're going to be putting on webinars in partnership with FireSafe Marin and FireWise, and we encourage everyone on this Zoom, as well as watching this video later, to sign up for those webinars, learn how they can support people with access and functional needs, whether they're in your own family or neighbors in the community, and connect them with our Powered and Prepared program, as well as all of our services, so we can really help folks continue to maintain their independence during the pandemic. I believe I've covered the first few slides, and I'm going to pass it back to Julia to launch the rest of the presentation.
let me click through. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit more about who we help at the Marin Center for Independent Living. So really, because often we get asked, what's the eligibility requirement for services? And really, we help all people, any people who identify as having any type of disability or disabling condition. And coming from a background as a children's therapist for many years, I really appreciate that mental health is included here, in that we assist individuals with physical disabilities, intellectual and developmental disorders, mental health, including substance abuse, short-term or long-term occurring, as well as we help older adults who may or may not have a disability. And we are very, very big on supporting caregivers and the network, the systems around individuals with disabilities or who are experiencing disabling medical conditions. And we have, in the pandemic especially, been very committed to lifting up caregivers of all kind, whether they are, informal family caregivers, private caregivers, or IHSS providers. And we have been working with the Marin Organizing Committee a great deal around educating and supporting the community, and as well as advocating. And then our agency also helps other staff and care providers who are working on behalf of individuals with disabilities and older adults. We are a very collaborative agency and really embody my personal phrase and motto: teamwork makes the dream work. So. And, what's wonderful, I'm going to sort of get into the weeds a little bit here, but just want to put some context into how I came to Marin Center for Independent Living and sort of the expanded services that we began providing when I was, at the time I joined. So what's wonderful is with the Affordable Care Act established what's called a no wrong door system, which is overseen under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Administration on Community Living. And the idea behind a no wrong door policy is really to enable people to be able to have a streamlined and experience and access to whatever long-term service or support they need. So really, the no wrong door system is aimed to empower individuals to make informed decisions, to exercise control over their long-term care needs, and achieve their personal goals and preferences. So really, in sum, no wrong door is about choice, direction, and control. And honestly, what isn't there to like about just that concept of there is no wrong door for you? And that is something that I really think is one of the strongest parts of our program. There are currently 56 states and territories who are participating in no wrong door systems, over 1,300 access points with 33 states. And just to explain a little bit more about the no wrong door system, is that it is a sort of complex system in that there are multiple factors to it. So first, we need our state leadership, and we are very fortunate in California to have very strong state leadership at the Department of Aging and with Governor Newsom. And we also have strong local level governance and administration to implement a true no wrong door system. We are very committed to being visible and collaborative partners with a variety of community-based organizations, as well as with healthcare providers. And we really strive, again, in a person-centered manner, to streamline the access and enrollment into long-term services and supports. And then another key concept with no wrong door work is, in that sort of spirit of choice, direction, and control, is person-centered planning, where really we believe in a no wrong door system, and within our organization, that the consumer is the driver. They set the goals, and it is our responsibility to help them to the best of our ability reach those goals. So with the no wrong door, as it sounds, that means that no one is turned away without at least information and assistance. And one of our sort of buzzwords is LTSS, that long-term support services, or long-term services and supports. I've heard it used both ways, to be honest. And really, the no wrong door policy was developed with the idea of that there are so many wonderful social and health and community-based organizations out there doing important work out in the community, but there's a great deal of fragmentation, siloing, and especially siloing around resources. And so really the use of a no wrong door policy is meant to really increase the experience of all community members. And so Marin Center for Independent Living has long been, functioning in the spirit of a no wrong door system. And about in 2014, along with the executive director of Aging Adult Services, Lee Pullen, realized that this was something they really wanted to bring to Marin County. And what's really special about this partnership between our organization and Aging and Adult Services, first one I'm very proud of is we were the only ADRC and continue to be the only ADRC in the state to put forward their own funding to create staff positions and program delivery. It's been remarkable to see just how collaboratively our leaders at both organizations worked from the start in the spirit of it, creating a no wrong door system for older adults and people with disabilities in Marin, especially in recognition that Marin County is the oldest county in the state with I believe it's 1 in 4 residents being over the age of 65. And so recently we were fortunate enough to be able to do some rebranding, and we came together and instead of being continuing to put forth this no wrong door with a double negative, I'm going to skip ahead a little here, we became Marin's one door ADRC. So let me skip back a little bit. So just because I want to put into context a bit more about our ADRC, because again, it is a collaborative program between Marin Center for Independent Living and Aging and Adult Services. It cannot function as an ADRC without both of our partnerships involved, based on the fact that due to our state's definition of ADRCs, and we are a state designated ADRC, we must be a partnership between an independent living center and our local area agency on aging. And so what's great is our local area agency on aging is housed within Aging and Adult Services, which means through our collaboration, our ADRC includes and is really the backbone, I would say, is the 473 info team. And a big part as well as in-home support services, adult protective services. We are actually developing further our partnership with the Marin County Ombudsman Program, and then also work with the Veterans Services. And so when I talk about the ADRC, I like to describe it to people, my sort of elevator pitch is that ADRCs are like a connecting flight on your trip. When it comes to aging and disability, we're not your final destination. It's our job to get you there. So again, as I mentioned, the sort of ADRCs per state definition have to contain core partners of the Area Agency on Aging and Independent Living Center, but we can also and are hoping to expand to additional core partners in the spirit of breaking down sort of siloing of services and streamlining consumer access to the appropriate long-term services and supports that they would like. Some of our extended partners include Marin Community Clinics. And I'm just going to pause for a second because I would like to just give my colleague Anna Kachatrian a shout out, because she actually has taken our extended partnership with Marin Community Clinics and developed it into an additional incredibly innovative collaborative program where through our partnership with Marin Community Clinics, we work with their medical social workers and case managers to address their patients' social needs around social determinants of health. And Anna has been able to see incredible improvements in quality of life, as well as in medical and physical well-being through this partnership. And it is we call it called M3C, which stands for Marin Community Clinics. As I mentioned, we also work very closely with Ombudsman, paratransit services, other CBOs, including
Integrated community service.
Thank you. I just keep wanting to say independent or information. I'm so sorry. End of the day. And so also per state guidelines, all ADRCs offer 4 core services. So that would be enhanced information referral, benefits planning or options counseling, short-term service coordination, which is defined as up to 90 days of service coordination, and medical transition support. And so what's fantastic is when Aging and Adult Services and Marin CIL came together in partnership, really both our agencies were already providing these core services, but by creating this partnership and a streamlined process of working with clients, we've been able to improve our work, improve our outcomes, and increase our reach. And so, as I mentioned, we were able to come together and create this one door, and that includes one door to accessing, as I'll talk about in a minute, in-home support services and all that entails, one door to nutritional programs, to independent living skills, really all of the various programs that are housed within both Marin Center for Independent Living and Aging and Adult Services, which really is a great deal. And so the key components, make sure we provide accurate information and help people learn what the best options are for their fits. And really that is exactly what our independent living advocates at Marin CIL have been doing since the beginning, is my understanding. And it's really been in the spirit of independent living, that again, the person is the driver of their destiny, and that we empower them to make informed decisions about their long-term, short and long-term services and supports. We have an ADRC advisory committee that includes a combination of community members, extended community partners who were crucial in the development of our ADRC, as well as caregivers and consumers. And, again, person-centered approach is crucial in all of the work that we do. And we work closely with other professionals, and we work very closely with the county's Medicaid eligibility specialists, as well as closely with the IHSS social workers to advocate for, when possible, expedited enrollment in services, as an example for someone who is about to transition out of a skilled nursing facility. And just like Marin Center for Independent Living, ADRCs help any people of any age with all types of disabilities, the people in their sort of support network, as well as other community members who help people with disabilities or older adults. And so the sort of crucial parts of our ADRC in Marin is that we communicate, coordinate, collaborate, and integrate. We have weekly meetings as an ADRC team with both Marin Center for Independent Living and Aging and Adult Services leadership. We coordinate through, we're actually in the development of a database to help us track and personalize sort of long-term goal setting for our consumers, and also to track our work together. We work collaboratively with consumers as well as with other community providers, and definitely integrate strongly our programs and our funding streams. And so, as I mentioned, we have an MOU, or I did not mention this part, we have an MOU in place so that we're able to share data, which again really assists us in being able to, and I keep coming back to IHSS because that's one of the situations that I have heard so often. It holds people up in successful transitions, and by having this MOU in place and working together as an integrated multidisciplinary team, we are able to streamline the application process, helping explain to the individual what the process will be like, what the assessment will be like with an IHSS social worker. Both Anna and I know all of the IHSS and APS social workers over at the county, so we're able to work with people we know for whatever is in the best interest in our clients. So for example, signing up for IHSS, and then we can use Quick Match to help find them an IHSS provider. Now, through the sort of core services that the ADRC provides, we have our own information and assistance navigator at Marin Center for Independent Living. And then there's also through Aging Adult Services, I like to call it Chloe Cook and her super team of social workers. You can call between 8:30 and 4:30, Monday through Friday, 473-INFO for any questions regarding aging or disability. And that includes around caregiving or medical services and other long-term supports. Her team also manages the Community Resource Guide, and this is located on the Marin County Aging Adult Services website. And it's a very easy click-through site that can provide a great deal of information as well. Another one of the core services that we offer, and that Marin CIL has been offering that already through our independent living advocates, is options planning. And that can look really, again, quite widely because it depends on the person. So that could be helping an individual. One of the needs in the past year that have come up a great deal is assistance applying for unemployment, as well as Social Security disability, state disability, and assistance with enrolling in Medi-Cal and in-home support services. As I mentioned, we provide up to 90 days of service coordination, and that could look, like providing support and facilitating enrollment in Medi-Cal, IHSS, perhaps advocacy with a landlord, or assisting with an appeal. I call it loosely case management light, because we are not social workers in the sense that we do not go out into the community and, we can't drive our consumers to their appointments and such, but we do coordinate a lot of behind the scenes details that can be really overwhelming, especially in regards to housing, Social Security, and the health insurance. And our medical facility to home transition support really covers a great deal. It is primarily just based on the demand. It has been, I should say, providing support with individuals in skilled nursing facilities who wish to transition out. And I would say it's been an equal number in terms of referrals and, people reaching out to us in skilled nursing facilities of longtime residents who wish to reside elsewhere but don't have anywhere to go, as well as individuals who have experienced recent medical events and then transition to skilled nursing and are now ready to return to their home that they were previously residing in. We've also assisted with transitions from acute and long-term psychiatric care, as well as substance abuse treatment facilities. And during these transitions, we work, again, if it's what the person if it's in our consumers' best interest that they express, this is their goal, they want these people involved, we're able to collaborate with them and help them as well get connected to any resources or supports that might assist them really and provide them with the sort of care that they too need during any kind of challenging times. And so I just want to tell little sort of consumer success story to give you an example of this. Is honestly a very sort of common sort of picture of the kind of individuals we help at Marin CIL. So if I just chose the name Agnes because I love that name. Agnes was a 76-year-old female who was referred to us from Marin General. It was Marin General at the time, Marin Health, and the cancer center there. And so when she was referred, she did have secure housing with she was a long-term Section 8 voucher holder. And she was ready to return there from the skilled nursing facility. She was recovering from stage 4 breast cancer and a couple falls in her home, which there had been some mold issues. She lived in West Marin. She lived alone and didn't have any support network nearby. And one of the biggest concerns was transportation for her radiation that she needed for 3 weeks after transitioning, as well as how to address the mold and her fall risk. And so what's great is we were able, through the Department of Rehabilitation, to apply for transition funding, and we were able to hire a caregiver, a private pay caregiver through our personal attendant registry and Quick Match, who then took Agnes to her biweekly appointments, then also helped with hiring a cleaning team, while we also referred her to Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, which was able to do an inspection and remediation of her unit. We also referred her to our assistive technology advocate at Marin CIL, who assisted Agnes with getting a ramp for the entrance to her home. And we were able to submit a reasonable accommodation request asking for some additional home modifications that was accepted to make her home more accessible, especially the bathroom area. I was going to say, we also, for the fall risk, we also enrolled her with through Lifeline for a life alert, so that we were able to at least get her an emergency communication device in the case of a fall. And I'm very happy to report that after 90 days, Agnes did not return to the hospital. She was able to remain safely at home. We also were able to get her signed up with IHSS. And by the time the transition funding and for the private pay caregiver ran out, she had an IHSS caregiver in place to begin, and who stayed with her for several months. I'm not sure after that because Agnes was doing so well, but it really just encompasses, again, so much of the services that we provide on a daily basis in terms of the advocacy, the connection to other resources, and the collaboration with other providers and community members. And so to access our services, you can call, again, 473-INFO, or you can call our agency at 415-459-6245. You can submit an email request. There's also on our website a way to submit a request for assistance. And then I'm going to ask Eli just to talk a little bit about all that our agency has done during the pandemic.
Sure, and I'll go through this quickly because I know we want to leave room for Q&A, but you know, and actually, even since this presentation, our numbers have increased. But just to give an idea of some of the impact of Marin CIL and our awesome team, we've distributed over 800 kits of PPE. We have provided over, it's actually 100, I believe, I want to say 125 households, maybe even 150. With backup battery support during power outages and PSPS events, public safety power shutoffs. We've distributed over 100 Chromebooks. We've worked in partnership with the county and our key CBOs in facilitating meal delivery, grocery delivery, and really addressing food insecurity during the pandemic. Supplied over $70,000 in emergency financial assistance, facilitated access to COVID-19 vaccinations, and worked in partnership with the county and the community advisory board to ensure that our pods and mobile vaccination distributions were accessible for people with disabilities. And what an awesome job our county has done on that. We've also done an incredible amount of transitions and diversions, both getting people out of skilled nursing and institutional settings, as well as helping them remain diverting remain living independently and not entering those facilities. And I also just wanted to touch on a few other elements not on the slide, but because I saw it in the chat, in terms of our client demographics and, what services look like overall, we serve about 1,500 people a year across our entire program. Over 60% of those that we serve are over the age of 60. About 25% come from diverse and underrepresented backgrounds, and we aim to increase that through all the work that we've talked about today. And in terms of diversity of disability, we're very much across the board. It's still predominantly, I would say the highest percentage is physical disability, but we also have a significant amount of mental health and dual diagnosis, combination of physical and disability, as well as other sensory disabilities and traumatic brain injury and acquired brain injuries. So the point is, we really serve the entire spectrum of disability. And, as Julia pointed out so well in her presentation, we really aim to get people to the right services that they need, whether it's through our organization or the county, or through one of the great CBOs that we partner with in the community.
I would just like to add, because I couldn't resist pulling up our Department of Aging numbers because I was asked, just that Marin Center for Independent Living helped in Q3 736 individuals, or in the first 3 quarters, 736 individuals through our ADRC, 12,464 individuals. The predominant percentage of the people we have assisted identify as female. And I would say that we have, in the pandemic, increased our numbers with the Latinx community. And I feel like that has been especially in part due to our increased collaborative work with Canal Alliance, which we're really proud of, and also proud to share that we are finally bringing on an amazing bilingual staff member who will be assisting with some of our community care management around social determinants of health for the Marin Community Clinics patients. So I hope that's just helpful. And I couldn't, I just wanted to say, that as I think I mentioned, we are, one of a state designated ADRC. There are 6 state designated ADRCs. I'm very proud to say that we are definitely leaders in terms of the level of collaboration, as well as just the amount of service we're about to do, have really been able to set a high bar. And what's fantastic is that a couple of years ago, SB 453 allocated funds for the first time in 10 years towards ADRCs. And this year, through the pandemic, we have seen additional funding, and then a budget revision for the state with an additional $10 million going towards ADRCs was approved. And we are waiting and hoping that the sunset date will be removed on that. There are an additional, actually now 11 emerging ADRCs, and more counties expressing interest. And also, thanks to our great state leadership, that both Department of Aging and Governor Newsom's Master Plan on Aging really envision ADRCs as being a key part of the future, with a special partnership with CMS and Medi-Cal. And I couldn't resist keeping this in because Eli, I know, is an A's fan, and I am a Giants fan, but really Marin Center for Independent Living has for 42 years now, doing, I think, truly giant things. And I like to say that when we came together with Aging and Adult Services, it's like when Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen came together and made the Chicago Bulls what they were in the 90s. And that is really what through our leadership, our service providers, we have an incredible growing staff, are aiming to do for all people with disabilities and older adults in Marin. And I just want to say we will share this slide deck with you all, and really please feel free to reach out at any time with any questions.
May I thank you for bringing the concept of intersectionality to life for all of us. On some levels, we know that so many issues do intersect. Nobody brought it together as well as you and Eli have, I think, in the months we've been doing this. And thank you for the very, very significant work and the fact that you began with an issue that is near and dear to so many people, and that is stable housing. Thank you for bringing so many of these things together for those in our community who need it the most.
Absolutely, our pleasure. It's just, we're so, the community's been through so much, and we are just so proud of the work of our team and grateful that we are moving in a positive direction, and, you know, recognize that there's much more work to do, but we feel, you know, fortunate and ready and committed to following through on that, on all that needs to happen in order to maintain our you know, community and our caregivers and our family members throughout the pandemic. So thank you so much, Denise.
That concept of no one being turned away without information is really the spirit, I think, behind the law library beginning to work with other organizations as vital as yours. If we don't have an answer, we now know where to go for a referral. What you bring to us is so important as we try and serve members of our community with legal issues. And we thank you for your referrals to lawyers in the library, and we would welcome your feedback.
Thank you. I know Julia in particular works frequently with your library, so you have a new friend.
I'm a big fan.
She is, and we're very lucky to have Lori, who takes a great deal of personal effort in trying to integrate the information. I'm going to joke with this. The first thing we'll be asking for is, do you have handouts for those that would like something physical to walk away with and not just a referral to a website? Lori and her staff make the library the resource that it is, and we're very appreciative of it.
Fantastic. And yes, actually, you've caught us at a very good time in that we're just about to put out a bunch of collateral material around our Powered and Prepared program. Julia and the ADRC team are rolling out the one-door material and kind of campaign to educate the community. We're rolling out our digital access for all, our digital access program. So yes, we will have plenty of physical collateral material as well, not just websites. And we have some cool quick match flyers. They're like little coasters, and we could drop some of those off as well.
Oh, I'm really happy to hear that, and I would be happy to pick them up if
Great.
that's easier.
You mentioned one other thing that I find very interesting, and I think that we could provide some viewership for this. When you do start with your webinar program, if you could send us links for posting about the event and to make sure that our clients at the library find out about them. We'd love to help you publicize those.
Absolutely. We will have a big webinar date in August. with FireSafe Marin. I can't remember it off of the top of my head, but we will certainly get you that date and the registration page when it's live.
Great.
Do we have any more questions out there? May I draw to everyone's attention that will be listening to this something remarkable about this organization. I believe that Julia touched briefly on their funding and the work they do on that themselves. I'd like to point out what's been particularly remarkable about CIL is not only the work that they did pre-pandemic, and that was with a staff of 14, and you'll forgive me, I just learned about this and I can't resist bringing it up. In the age of a pandemic and all that went with it, this organization added and integrated an additional 5 staff members. That's a remarkable feat.
Thank you, Denise. We just have an incredible foundation of support. Not just our team, but the community really has believed in our organization and supported us for many years. And you know, I think where we're placed and the relationships that we have developed and maintained pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, and you know, frankly, unfortunately, the incredible need that we've seen during the pandemic has only elevated and kind of raised the awareness for what independent living centers like ours do in the community, as well as our great community partners out there. So we're very grateful. And, you know, as we continue to grow and expand, we absolutely do not lose sight of the fact that, you know, we are a person-centered organization. We're a disability-led organization. Over 50% of our board and staff are people with disabilities. And we're a very diverse organization. We have over 30% of our staff from diverse backgrounds and countries. And we pride ourselves on all of those intersectionalities. It's really important that we represent the community in order to serve the community, and we strive to do that.
We're grateful to have had you. We would like to RSVP for a future date so you can give us an update on all the wonderful things that you're doing. And I'd like to propose that we begin a year of partnership in helping you get the word out about your webinars and us getting our services out to the people that need them. We're very grateful to both of you.
As are we, and looking forward to building another great partnership.
Yes, I am too. Thank you so much.
Everyone have a lovely evening. Be sure to be keeping your eyes open on YouTube. This will be added. And again, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a great night and have a great 4th, everyone.
Thank you all.
too.
Take care.
Bye.